All right. We have Benjamin Wallace Wills here, also known as Benny Wills. He is a actor, poet, YouTuber, father, husband, friend, teacher, landlord, bridge builder, and the mastermind behind the course in how to speak boldness called Parrhesia. It's my honor to have you on today, and I really have I don't know how much fun you're going to have with this question, but the first question I have for you today is what are your guiding principles?
In life?
Yeah, or in general, like, what's like the number one ideal, or, you know, you
Going
had
for the
a,
heavy hitter right off the
had,
bat, huh? All right.
well, if you had a true north on your compass.
I think to always be improving myself is possibly it's the first thing that comes to mind anyway. I mean, if I thought about this and decided to like write about it and really put time into it, but my first impulse is to say the improvement of myself, because the more improvement of myself and the more benefit I can provide to others and the more positive impressions I can make on other people and the more service I can provide, the more I'm taking care of, not only taking care of myself, but making sure that I'm getting better and improving in every way I can.
Well, that's a fair response. And, I didn't want to send these questions out, so
Let's
he
do it.
doesn't know what I'm asking him.
I
Just to
love
let
going deep.
going into the because this is part of the course. I feel like is to be bold, frank,
Yep.
open. And another interesting word I saw with the etymology of parrhesia was license of tongue. I thought that was pretty interesting on Wikipedia.
Interesting. License of tongue, like someone was a silver tongue.
More or less, you could say it was
Yeah.
a noun associated with the word parrhesia.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's good information.
Yes. Okay. So my next question is, when did you realize that communication was one of the biggest hurdles that we face, and um, why is it such a big deal to try to be able to reason with the public mind?
I think I realized the importance of communication when I was in my early 20s, when I was having an impossible time talking about the issues that I thought were important with people who didn't think they were important or didn't know about these issues. So I realized that I had room to grow. And that was a humbling realization. And I decided to figure out how to be a better communicator. And it wasn't necessarily with the intention of one-on-one communication. I just wanted to figure out how I could communicate a message to the world. And yeah, it came from trial and error. It came from being so surprised that people didn't have the same interests as me. I couldn't believe that what the issues that I thought were important weren't not only not important to other people, but also like they thought the opposite and they thought I was wrong. And it was like it was like a glitch. Didn't make any sense to me. So when I was trying to explain things, I was getting really heated up and passionate and even, I don't want to say mean, but intense with my opinions and my ideas. And I was relentless at times. And when I saw that it was just making things worse, I thought, okay, there's a better way to do this, because it is not impossible to convey a complex idea. I just know how to do it. So that was it. It was when I was in college. And what was the second part of your question?
This was kind of an additional question, but why is it so important to be able
All
to
right.
reason with and I would call it the public mind?
Right. So one of my favorite quotes comes from a guy named Les Brown, who is I guess you call him a motivational speaker. He's an orator, just a public speaker. And he says, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. So if we don't know how to communicate, then nothing gets communicated. Then that means we can't leave any sort of impact on the world, because everything is about communication, whether it's through an artistic piece or through an intellectual, I don't know, speech or something, even a conversation, if you don't know how to communicate an idea well, then you're not going to make it very far anywhere in life, in my opinion, or at least you're not going to have the kind of impact that you could have. So we all have ideas that are either wrong or require a little more perspective. And if someone wasn't there to communicate it better to us or provide information in a way that we can hear it, that will help influence the way we think, then we're dead in the water. So we have to be able to communicate to each other, or else we are just going to be, stuck.
All right. Thanks. That's it's for me. I just feel like it's important for the dialogue for the public to be more involved in a more like personal dialogue. It's like I feel like we're just lumped up into one big mass, and that we don't really have personal representation. It's all just a popular representation. In today's society, it's hard to get representation for smaller and smaller groups of people. So I don't know. I think it's just crazy hard to reach the public, and that's why I said the public mind, or to reason with the public. It's because a lot of people have popular ideas, and it's hard to get through those popular ideas. So
and everything takes work. I mean, if you want to influence the public, like the general public, it's not going to be easy. So you have to work towards it. So that requires effort, dedication, discipline, follow through, and a commitment to getting better at what you do, and also a commitment to a higher calling. If your mission is, if you're seeing a fundamental problem with society, or seeing a trap that you think people are falling into, well, if it's that important to you, then you'll figure out a way to convey that message in spite of the odds, in spite of the obstacles, in spite of the unwillingness by some to hear you. If it's that important to you, then you will rise to the occasion and put in the work, because life is not easy, and the biggest rewards in life don't come easily.
It's a very good point. And I appreciate that. Benny always has very good insights, and I feel like he can see parts of people that they can't see in themselves, which he's a very good mirror. I have a pretty interesting question here. It's how far down the rabbit hole have you gone down, or do you still spend time there? Do you need to anymore these days? I feel like probably not.
Well, by some people's standards, I've probably gone really, really, really deep, and by other people's standards, I probably haven't gone deep at all. I mean, the rabbit hole is a bottomless pit, and there are certain levels that I probably have not touched, and I probably won't ever touch, and some that I choose not to touch because it's just too dark and too grim. But I do spend less time in the rabbit hole than I used to, because I find that it's not a productive place for my mind to go too often. And because I put in so much time really trying to get to the bottom of the rabbit hole when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I feel like I gained enough perspective to navigate in this realm, with an understanding that there's deception, and there are forces at work that don't have my best interest at heart. And I've learned some form of independence, I guess, that I don't know. It's like I graduated, not to say that there's not always new information that can be explored or utilized. I'm not opposed to that or obtaining it, but I put my focus elsewhere so that I don't get stuck, and that I don't get too caught up in the darkness, because the rabbit hole can be a really dark place. And, if you get too stuck in there, you can feel defeated, you can feel hopeless, and you can lose momentum in your life. And if you spend too much time dwelling on the negative aspects of life, you're going to start seeing those negative aspects everywhere. And doesn't mean that they're not there all the time, but it's like you're attuning to a frequency. I'd rather attune to a frequency of positivity and hope and excitement and love and goodness, and I've just changed the dial on my radio, as it were, in the last few years.
Yeah, I just get a lot of inspiration because you're only a few years older than me, but you were doing like the very cool Joy Camp stuff of like when I was doing something completely different. I wasn't aware of it, but it was just incredible to see like the creativity coming out of you and your friends, and doing it in a way that I've never had seen anyone ever do. And to me, it's sheer genius, and I don't see how it wasn't like a smashing success. I feel like it was, however, I mean, in its own right, I just feel like it should have woken up the masses, and some of them.
There's no one thing that can wake up the masses. That's the conclusion I'm at right now. Maybe I'll arrive at a different conclusion later, but I think that most people have potential to have a breaking point where they do think critically, potentially. It's in all of us, whether or not it ever gets activated or not. But as far as like one video or one idea, one book, one reframing of reality, I don't think it's possible to wake up all of mankind. Because what are you waking them up to? I mean, that's something we have to keep ourselves in check about. It's like, what are we hoping they realize that will change everything? Like, what do you want it to change towards? Like a lot of our ideas aren't thought out. So what does someone mean by waking up? Like, what does that mean? And what do you hope the person will do if they do wake up? I mean, it's better to focus on, for me, I'll speak for myself. I'm choosing to focus on the individuals who are already, sensing that things are not what the mainstream says. So I'm trying to help them figure out how to get their ducks in a row so that they can have a positive impact on the world, whether or not it's in the realm of conspiracy or not. And I do think that a lot of people, even if they were to hear you and agree with you, they would still choose their lifestyle. They would still choose, for lack of a better term, the slavery aspect of reality because it's comfortable. So I don't think it's possible to like create the change in people's minds in the way that we sometimes think we can. When I was younger, I thought I could, and I'm kind of getting off the rails here. And I know that it is possible to change people's minds and wake them up, but I don't think it's as easy as like, if you just come up with that one idea, this one thing, everyone's going to it's going to be affected by it. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, to answer your question, it's typically, I feel like, what a lot of the people that I have seen come on your show talk about, which is the belief in authority. And that's something that we are struggling to change the hearts and minds of people. The belief in authority is the most, if not, I would say the most dangerous idea that we have, that's instilled in us the earliest, that we don't have control over. And so if there was one thing that could flip it around, I don't know, I think it would have to be a belief in a higher power or a cosmic law or something like that. And it's hard for people to see that and recognize it unless they actually have experienced it in their own reality. And not everyone has had a mystical experience or see the hand of justice working, I guess. So another point that I would like to make is just it's hard to combat with the music and the media and all the hypnotic things that they do to us. So there's a lot of trickery and twisting to that we would have to learn to even touch it, and everyone would have to be doing their own things. But anyways, yeah, not to get too far off track, it's a good question though. There's not one thing that's gonna like flip the light on inside of all of our heads, and a lot of people have to see it to believe it. And karma is all about action. So if people want to experience the truth, then they need to take action. And that's why it's hard to spend time in the rabbit hole, because you gain all this knowledge, but you can't do anything. So it's not doing anything any good.
Yeah, people have to choose their fate. They have to choose freedom. They have to choose to think critically. They have to choose it. So as far as belief in authority goes, I think there is such a thing as authority. And then I don't think it's wrong to necessarily believe in it, but where we go wrong is when we put all of our faith in it. We defer our thinking to authority and we say, well, they know better than I do. Like, that's the sentiment that I'm so sick of hearing. I think that's such a weakened place to come from. Like, well, this person is smarter than I am, so I'm going to listen to them. Like, they're the authority, so therefore they're worth trusting. Like, that's the problem. There's no problem in essence of someone who has like a management position, who is able to like guide situations, like a conductor in an orchestra. Like, you need the conductor for the orchestra to be amazing. So there's some authority that is required, especially for like big things to be achieved. But when you are not able to question that authority or challenge that authority, then there's a problem. And that's where I think the system is really flawed, is we're not taught that core belief in ourselves, to trust ourselves and our own experience and our ability to govern our own lives. And yeah, I don't know what it would take to get people, the masses, to wake up to that, other than starting with the individual and the influence we have in our own world and with our children or with our friends and our community. That's how you can really start that snowball that becomes an avalanche of change, by just taking the power back for yourself right now, rather than worrying about the masses.
It's a good point. And that's something that I've easily gotten caught up in, is paying attention to the craziness. Because I always used to say, if we cared so much about, if we cared as much as we care about the Super Bowl as we did about poverty, then we'd have an overnight change. But,
right.
So one of the interesting things I noticed in some of your videos was you were into astrology, and I started out my YouTube channel based on making astrology videos. And
I watched some of them, by the way.
Oh, gee.
I do that. No, I do that with my subscribers. Especially when someone has if they've gone through the trouble of giving themselves an avatar picture on their handle, I'll check them out, because usually that means that someone's dabbled in and I also have something called vidIQ, which will show me if anybody has subscribers when they leave me a comment. So if someone has subscribers, I'm like, okay, I want to see what they're subscribing to. So yeah, when you first signed up for the course, I checked out your channel.
Yeah, that was baby me studying astrology, learning about like my own personality and such. And that's why I thought it was really interesting, because it told me about all these like inner mechanics that I couldn't really see about myself. And now I see it. It's weird. The thing that I noticed in astrology was that the ones that supposedly fought the Revolutionary War had the Pluto Scorpio placement, and that's basically all the millennials. And I felt then it was a sign. I was like, well, we're going to have to be the ones that like buck off the next ruler or fight the next revolution. And it's not a physical one. It's a psychological one. And it's one that we have against ourselves. Like Nietzsche said, behold, I am that which must overcome itself. That was like one of his, he said that was like his secret.
Right.
Do you see any like correlations and relevance with astrology still anymore? Or are you still into that? Or
gosh, good question. Now, I don't really pay attention to it, to be honest, but I did for a long time. So especially in my 20s, when I was really first exploring just the spiritual aspect of life, I was drawn to astrology. And I took a step back from it when I felt like I was compromising my free will. And that's not astrology's fault. That's my fault, because I was too I can have an obsessive personality sometimes. I like really get detailed and organized, and I like things, I don't know, very, yeah, uncluttered. So I was really obsessing over astrology, and I was analyzing everything in my life based off of what the stars
I
had to
had the
say.
lens of astrology on it.
Yeah. So I realized, and at a certain point, I realized I was no longer just experiencing life. I was like using astrology as a rubric to like keep track of everything and to make sense of everything. And at a certain point, I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna back off because this is I'm I'm like getting myself into a, I don't know, I'm trapping myself here by not allowing some things to just be, and I'm trying to like
Forecast.
trying to like, yeah, forecast, predict, and define and organize everything into a pattern or something. And I thought, this isn't fun or interesting anymore. This just feels like work. But I think there's truth in it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously not all just a big scam. It's obvious there's something there. And I think there's something beautiful about astrology. Um, and as far as what you're saying about millennials, I mean, I haven't looked into the astrological aspect of what our generation represents or the correlations with other generations. But I do think that the millennial generation, which I am a part of, I'm one of the elder statesmen of the millennial generation. But we've endured so much. We are the generation that crossed over from the 1900s to the 2000s, and we've seen some pretty epic events, like some of the kind of events that some people only see once in their lifetime. We've seen them routinely.
Multiple.
Yeah. And we are now coming into our own. So I still feel like, even though I'm 39, I'm like still in my prime. So myself and then everyone behind me, we are the ones who are taking the ball now. Like we're going to be the ones who are leading the world. And I think that that's exciting. I don't think our generation is, I think we've been developing a thick skin, and I think we're going to be in good hands, frankly.
That's a good outlook, and I appreciate the insight. And I felt similar about astrology. I've used it as like a lens, and I've obsessed over it. And I think a grain of salt with everything is good. And I've noticed some significant patterns too. Every 20 years, you have that grand conjunction where Saturn and Jupiter get together, and they call it the Star of Bethlehem. But the pandemic happened, and then 20 years before that, you had 9/11, and they're like, I don't know if there's pattern to it or not, but they line up, and it's weird. I'm
Right.
just a layman over here.
Well, pattern recognition is one of the keys to understanding reality and success in life, I think. So if you have a knack for noticing patterns, lean into it, because that's how you become a leader. And those are the people that we look to for guidance, those who can see the patterns clearly.
Yeah, it's a creepy pattern, if you ask me. I couldn't tell you what it means, but how are we looking on time? I didn't know how much time you had, but I have
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
good.
I have a few more questions then.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite myth or legend, hero, real or imaginary?
Favorite myth or legend? What's yours? And that'll help me maybe think of mine.
I first thing I would think of is like Prometheus, because he stole the fire from the gods and gave it to us, and it correlates with I think a lot of other stories and myths. I think it has something to do with Lucifer even and Satan. And then one of my favorite deities is Phanes. He's like a solar deity that was pre Christian, and it was like basically a primordial creator god. So like I really like any primordial creator entities, like basically anything that comes from the Godhead type Trinity
Nice.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I get, I don't have an answer because I've never thought about it. Um, I'm tempted to say Jesus,
That's
but
awesome.
I also know that that would trigger some people because like, well, he's not a myth or a legend.
No way,
So
man.
but
I
the
love it.
as far as a, a character from a book, which is that's hard to argue whether or not it's real or not. Yeah, the instructions and teachings of Jesus really resonate with me, and I think that the path that he was outlining was the path. That's the path. That's why I dedicate myself to the principle I talked about in the beginning of self-improvement and service to others, because that's what Jesus was instructing. And he told people that you are going to be hated for living in accordance with truth. And he also taught people how to talk to authority, like you're saying. So, like, how do you handle authority who is at, how do you talk to them when when they are behaving outside of what is right? And he's just provided such a great instruction manual and a compass to live one's life by. So yeah, I mean that's the answer. That's my answer.
That kind of blew my peeled my wig back, whatever's left of it. Um, that's amazing, and I'm actually quite pleased that you said that, and it makes my heart smile because we need more people that aren't afraid to say Christ or Jesus, Yeshua, the man, the myth, the legend, all of the above. I think we shouldn't. That's actually something that I've been trying to learn more about myself. Have you heard about the sacred secretion and the Christ's germ seeds?
The Christ oil going up your spine into your, yeah, I
Yeah.
know about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of information about that um, circulating on the internet right now, and it's kind of amazing because I've looked into it like 10 years ago and it was so secret back then, and I didn't even know what it was, and now it's just right on YouTube. Um, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That has to do with astrology too.
Right. I learned about it from Santos Bonacci.
Yeah.
He back in the day, his YouTube channel was Mr. Astrotheology, and
Yes.
I definitely got a lot of out of his presentations back 10, 15 years ago.
Have you seen him lately?
Santos?
Yeah.
I have not seen him recently. No.
There's some shenanigans. I'm not gonna say anything besides there's been some shenanigans. I only discovered him kind of recently. The weirdest thing is going in and out of jail and seeing how crazy the world gets and society gets and how the culture's updated. All
Yeah.
right. Who is your oh wait, here's a kind of similar, okay, 10 minutes. All right, get out of here, Zoom. If you could spend time, and you probably already answered this, with anyone in history, bring them back from the dead, who would it be?
Oh wow. That's a good question. Oh, who would it be other than Jesus?
Yes.
Let me think for a second.
It's kind of hard now because you already said.
Yeah, I don't. That's a good. It's good. And my paradigm is shifting so much in the last year. Let's think about this. And
It's a good
who would
question.
it be?
I'll tell you mine then.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I would I would I really think Gandhi would be pretty interesting to, I would want to ask him some questions because I heard some, some dirt on Gandhi I saw on YouTube, and there's he was a politician, somewhat supposedly. So there's, it'd be interesting. Or Hitler.
I think
Have
the person I'd be most interested in having a conversation with is still alive. And that's, I think that as you go through life, like there's certain people that stand out. And right now, I really, really would love to have a conversation with Tony Robbins.
I knew you were gonna say that. That's
You did?
crazy. well, if you, I had intuitively when you started saying that, when you just like, when you told me, you said, "Oh, he's still alive."
Well,
I
he's just
took,
such an impressive guy. And when I feel like I have a pretty good BS detector. And when I hear Tony Robbins, I don't think he's full of BS. And I've watched enough of his stuff and read enough of his stuff to think he's genuinely aligned with an authentic mission in life. And he's in the elite class of people. He's like in the upper echelon of elite. So I want to know, like, hey, what's the truth about what goes on at those levels? Because you seem like a really good guy. Um, and that's where I'm at right now, just because he's a fascinating character. He's one of the like the legends of our world right now. So I would love to spend a day with him and just know what he get a sense of what he's experienced by being so at the top. And obviously committed to helping people. He's That's obvious. He's obviously committed to helping people, and he's involved with like some people at the top. You're like, wait a minute, what? So that's
yeah,
what came to mind.
that's a good, interesting answer. He was actually kind of wasn't really like opposed to like COVID stuff, but I remember he said something along the lines like during the beginning, which was more or less like, "Hey, they're not telling us the truth."
Oh, dude, I know. He had in his podcast, he had multiple episodes where he was talking to the same doctors that the main doctors who are coming out against all the restrictions and the mandates, and also talking about just the truth behind it. He had them all on his show, and he was talking about how kind of ridiculous all of the lockdowns were and everything. So yeah, I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I couldn't. I'm still trying to like de-traumatize myself from that because even just thinking about it like sends chills through my blood because I've been incarcerated, and when they use the terms or lockdown and curfew, and I just I don't know, it makes my heart feel bad to see that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And I don't know how, I'm trying to figure out how to deal with it because I thought that I could use logic and you know show people the truth easily, and it wasn't something that I was able to do easily because I feel so strongly about it. I wasn't even
Mhm.
able to control myself half the time. Even talking about it gets me going.
Yeah, yeah. Strange. It was a strange event for sure.
So, how many celebrities are dupes or knaves? Because I know you've met some of them. So I know some of them aren't, you know, because you've talked about it. You said not all of them are in on the whole craziness, and a lot of them would just laugh at you. But I could tell you some of the stuff. I feel like it's more the music industry than the actors. But
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I I don't have a conclusion or a hypothesis
it's a
even
good
about what all
answer.
it is, because you go when you watch music videos in particular, like you're saying, yeah, it's there's something genuinely disturbing about popular music and the award shows and music videos, the wardrobes. It's all very disgusting.
Can I interrupt you?
And yeah,
Will Smith and Chris Rock, was that legit? Do you think I thought it was an
I have no
act?
idea. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. I
It
don't
looked
know.
like he leaned into it. Like it looked like Chris Rock
I
like did the
know.
whole body into it
I've
thing.
seen the breakdown of it. I'm 50-50. But beyond that, I don't care. Like that's
Right.
where I'm at with it.
Oh, well,
I don't
how much time even now I'm wasting time pointing it out.
I don't know. From my experience in spending most of my life in Los Angeles, um, I stand by what I've said before. Most people have, if they're a part of something, they have no idea. Now, granted, there is an aspect of Hollywood being a propaganda machine that is, you don't have, it's not conspiracy. I mean, there is like deals being made between the CIA and the FBI and the government and Hollywood and the royal family, even like this, they do work together to promote certain ideas so that people have certain, and history in general, have certain ideas about, people and events, and that's fact. Like you can't, that is real. As far as agenda pushing or even like the more darker occulted weirdness, I don't know what the truth is, but I do think that most people, most of the individuals have no idea. Even if they are participating in it, they don't know that they are. And that's just for me knowing some of them. Yeah, and spending a lot of time around them. And the agenda pushing, you can also break that down. So there's my 2 cents on that.
Well, thank you. Well, I just want to say thanks for sharing your honest thoughts and opinions. And I was trying to ask you about I heard there was like a little freaking scam or something that happened to do with the guy that did Anarchapulco, but I feel like any event has some shit attached to it, for lack of better words. And Larkin Rose is awesome, and he wrote that.
I can vouch for a lot of these people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the shill calling and like the double agents and all the
I vouch for you.
Pro, all
That's
that
what
is
I'm
way
just gonna
overblown.
say. I vouch
Way
for
overblown.
Benny Wills. He's legit.
And I can vouch for a lot of these other guys because I have been on the speaking circuit for a long time, and they're authentic. I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but for the ones I've met, I can pretty safely say they're good people.
All right, everybody. Well, that was Benny Wills, and thanks for your time and attention. And I hope you guys have a good day.
Thanks, man.